So you're sitting at dinner, you're having a discussion, you're talking about how you don't like socialism, you don't like communism, you're American and you believe in the freedom of enterprise, the creativity of capitalism, the ability to sort of fight for your character and for your company's belief, and you're going to be problem solving, and that's how you're going to make money, and you're going to provide value to society. And the reason why your business and the belief behind capitalism is because the value that you provide, the solutions that you're solving and you're resolving, lead to greater interest and greater investment from those around you, and that leads to the growth of your company and ultimately the growth of society, and you can pay your employees well, and you just want to continuously grow this fervor, this feeling. And this happened. I'm in Zurich, Switzerland, and I'm talking through all of these thought processes around the companies I'm involved with and how I like to problem solve. And the response based off of my discussion came back to, that's interesting because your government just purchased $9 billion of shares of Intel. And when you look at this purchase, this $9 billion, 10% ownership of Intel, which is also subsequently supposedly going to be a passive involvement from the government, you start to think about some interesting aspects here, and you start to look at other companies like Tim Cook taking gifts to Donald Trump, to DJ Trumper, and you start to think about Trumpsky and his thought process, and then you start to think through, what does this mean if they're doing this, if they're going to become passive investors and not actually do anything? Are they changing the functionality of the business of Intel? Are they getting rid of the Intel CEO? Are they looking at a great CEO of a chip maker like Lisa Su and saying, hey, Lisa, can you absorb Intel? Or are they looking at, like, because a lot of this discussion has gone back to security and whoever wins AI wins it all, right? We've had discussions of this. Are they looking at the Intel absorption or passive investments and saying, supposed passive investments, and saying, hey, let's shift your execution of your company and try to challenge TSMC. Let's get more involved in this space. And even though TSMC does have, I think they have a factory in Arizona, let's try to challenge that area instead of being a challenger to NVIDIA directly and AMD. And I think when we're looking at this, so if we take the actual government words at their face value, they're saying it's a passive investment, right? But when we're looking at DJ Trump, the Trumpsky, and we're actually thinking through and we're looking at what does he like to do? He likes to tell people what to do. He likes to have his hand in the economy. He likes to clown around with things like tariffs. And maybe this is just a means of him trying to gain some sense of control in this specific space. I don't know. But I think when we're looking at things from afar, and we're looking at things like AI, and we're looking at, when else has this happened? It's happened, the automotive industry has had the government purchase things. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac got bought out after '08, right, with the housing crisis, with the mortgage crisis. But we have to look at those aspects of, like, those purchases were done during a crisis, during a very clear crisis. Okay, they were not done when literally this industry, the industry that Intel is floundering in, is booming. And that's the weirdest part here that I have as someone who tends to be more, as far as like the business side is concerned, like why aren't we more hands off with this? Why are we actually getting involved here? Why don't we let this company fail? And it's interesting here too that I wanted to bring up because I listened to a couple podcasts. I listened to another podcast where guys talk about AI on every single podcast and they go really, really in depth, and they were talking about how Intel's too big, we can't let it fail. And we can't let it fail because of the defense aspect. And my whole thought was, if they suck at their position, right, and we want them to shift away from their position, like, what if they just died? What if other companies absorbed some of their employees, which would happen, and they just died? They did fail. Like, why? Like, would there be a 6 to 12 month aspect of issues? Likely. But would we see, like, oh, they're too big? You really think NVIDIA cares? Do you really think these other companies actually care? And the thing that I've started to think about is, like, is DJ Trumpsky going to be taking on the aspect and saying now, like, oh, all the government entities have to use Intel chips? All of the government-supported medical centers, let's say veterans hospitals and stuff, they have to use Intel chips. And that's something that I'm interested to see play out, because that's typically what he likes to do. He likes to tell Coke how much sugar they should be putting in their drinks. He likes to tell, there's a lot of examples we could come up with where now this so-called supposed hands-off government, sort of resembles a fascist government that just wants to control people, and they presumably do this by claiming other things as far as, free market economy. And that's the sad part right here, is that if they're coming in and they're getting to become a 10% owner in a company in a passive manner, and they're not going to tell government entities what chips they can use, and they're not going to go around telling, using their position as a strategic advantage, like, hey, we're a 10% owner, and this is a government contract. If you're doing this with these Intel chips, nudge, nudge, rub your back, handy, handy, we're in a good situation. Like, what's the point? If it's only coming down to literally what they've said so far, is all they're doing is transferring that 10% stock shareholder documents from wherever it was before to now the Treasury. And if that's all they're doing, why? Please, why? And it just, to me, we're leading to, this can open up a can of worms. We're leading to an aspect of where it's contradictory. We're leading to this is a nationalization of production. That's what this is. For those of you out there that want to talk about you hate healthcare that's nationalized, this is a nationalization. This is a nationalization of production. This is a socialization of production, and you can't get away from this one, because your boy DJ Trumpsky is really, really leading, I think, an area where hands off. Let this industry go. Let them run. Let these other companies just go with it. We can still have a defense implication in the fact that, like, we don't want them to go to China. We don't want them dealing with China and and we want to protect the AI development and these specific chips. Like, I get it. I 100% get that. But as far as owning a company, I want to hear in the comments what you guys have to say about this one, because it's going to be the way that and I was even thinking about this. I'm going, if this was a left-wing president, like if this was Biden doing this, you realize what Fox News would be doing. That's why I want to see what these conservative guys, like you guys that claim to be conservative, that you claim to be conservative, but then you're gonna back this, a state-sponsored production now. I want to hear in the comments, because I'm sure you already have your excuses lined up from watching Fox News, and you can't wait to comment down below as far as like why you think this is this way. Because if a left-leaning president did this, there'd be hell to pay, and there should be. This doesn't need to happen. Hands off in this. Those are my 2 cents. Peace.